This week I've loaded up the van with lots of flowers and I'm heading to a farmer's market I haven't attended since 2019. Back then it was busy and full of energy, but now I really don't know what to expect. Because I've recently moved off my flower farm and my new site is still getting established, I'm not growing much yet. So to make this market stall happen, I had to order in quite a few of the flowers. But just after placing the order, the forecast shifted and not in my favour. The forecast was showing rain, the kind of weather that usually keeps people at home. So the big question is, with all the extra costs and the forecast looking grim, can I still make profit? In this video, I'll take you through the whole day, what I bought, what I sold, and break down exactly how it all worked out in the end. So let's see how it goes. Because of the short-lived nature of flowers, the picking and making is best left until last minute, but I wanted to get ahead of myself by prepping all of the paper in advance. You've seen me wrap bouquets lots of times on my channel before, so I'm not going to explain my technique here, but I'll link some videos down in the description if you want to see how it's done. I then had to order the flowers and plan how the bouquets were going to look. I planned on going back to my old farm to pick some flowers I knew were growing there, and I would be buying some from Hattie, whose farm I'm growing at this year. I was a little short on focal flowers, which can be a problem for July, so I decided to order in some sunflowers from a local British wholesaler. Midweek, I headed to Groundswell, which is a regenerative farming festival. I listened to loads of interesting talks, learned lots of new things, and enjoyed a few drinks and a dance on the evening. Back from Groundswell, and with the market being on Sunday, I headed to my old farm early on Friday morning to pick flowers. I picked feverfew, achillea, eryngium, asparagus fern, limonium and poppy seed heads. I couldn't believe how the weeds had started to take over already. Flowers picked and my car full, I headed over to Hattie's farm next to collect my order from her. She'd picked me some beautiful bright snapdragons, ammi and mint. I found that bright coloured bouquets sell well at farmers markets, so this is the look I was going for. Then later on my sunflower order arrived and I was all ready to get making on Saturday. Today is making day, so we've arrived at the workshop and we're getting set up ready to make bouquets, and I'm trying to make it as efficient as possible. So I've got these two tables here which I'm going to lay the flowers out on, so I'm going to be able to do the process of just picking up the flowers and moving along the tables, and then I'm going to come over here and put the bouquets together, wrap them in paper, and then finally add a sticker and a card, and then they will be popped into these buckets. And today I'm hoping to make 100 bouquets, which is quite a lot of bouquets, but hopefully with this efficient process it's not going to take too long or be too stressful. And I'm going to talk through the numbers a little bit with you as well, because I want to show you that I'm not just picking flowers and trying to sell them without really any kind of plan. I do have a plan to make profit at this market. So I've got lists here of the flowers that I have and quantities, and I've got lots of different flowers that are going to be fillers, focal flowers, and then I've got some grasses, poppy seed heads and those kind of things to make nice well-rounded bouquets. And I'm mainly taking £20 bouquets just because that's going to be quick and easy for me to put lots of £20 bouquets together rather than making bouquets at different price points. So I'm going to be putting 15 stems into each £20 bouquet, and I've got a couple of different formulas here that I can work to. And I'm hoping to sell 100 of those, so that makes me hopefully £2,000 in bouquets. And I have managed to go and pick some flowers from the farm that I've been growing on for the last 8 years that I left recently, so that's hopefully going to make me a little bit more profit because I haven't had to buy in so many flowers. I've bought some flowers from my good friend Hattie, whose farm I'm growing at this year, and I've also bought some sunflowers from a local grower. But apart from that, all of the rest of the flowers are my own, so I'm going to be able to make a little bit of a higher profit margin on those. So it was time to get to work making those 100 bouquets, and I started by laying out ingredients for this particular recipe out on the tables in roughly the order that I would use them in. I usually start by putting a few pieces of filler flower together to create a framework for the rest of the flowers. So with this particular bouquet I put 3 stems of achillea and a stem of eryngium together, followed by the sunflowers. As you might know if you've watched my channel before, I've got a love-hate relationship with sunflowers. I find them really difficult to arrange with because of their vertical outward-facing flowers, but recently I discovered a variety called Premier Orange Up, which is an upwards-facing sunflower. Unfortunately, these sunflowers were not upwards-facing varieties, so some of them were difficult to place in the bouquets, but I managed to work around it with most of them. Finally, I added a few stems of mint, poppies and asparagus fern before wrapping up the bouquet. Here's a couple of my favourite bouquets that I made for the market. These contain the first dahlias picked from my crate growing experiment. These plants seem to be growing really well in the crates, and if you want to check out how I've done it, then click the link in the description. 5 hours in and powered by crumpets, I was getting through the bouquet making. I moved on to making some bunches of feverfew since I had so much of it. I thought it would have looked really nice in a vase on its own on a coffee table or a kitchen island. By the way, I've recently joined TikTok and I posted a video of how I was wrapping the feverfew on there, and I'll be posting lots of content on there from now on, so give me a follow. Seven hours later, I'd finally finished putting the bouquets together. I hadn't made quite as many as I anticipated just because of the lack of focal flowers. I was hoping that the snapdragons and the stocks that I'd bought in were going to be enough to make the bouquets look full enough, but the bouquets just didn't look worth what I wanted to charge for them. So I went back to the drawing board and made less bouquets but filled with more sunflowers, snapdragons and stocks. In the end, I made 68 mixed bouquets and 21 feverfew bunches to take to the market the next day. Before I could finish for the day, I had one last thing to do, which was to paint a big sign letting people know what I was selling. I think it's really important to have clear messaging at markets, and one of my pet peeves is seeing a market stall and not know exactly what they're doing or where the produce is from. It's 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm just driving the van to the workshop to get the flowers, and I'm pretty worried because the forecast is for 9mm of rain this morning between sort of 8 and 12 o'clock, which is basically the entirety of the market, and I've got so many flowers with me and I'm just really concerned that they're not going to sell, so fingers crossed that the crowd's still going to turn out even though there is going to be a bit of rain. All I am glad about is that I haven't bought all of these flowers, and I picked a lot of them from the farm and I didn't have to make a massive investment, so that's one thing I'm grateful for. But so basically I just need to make the money that I did spend, which was around £500 on flowers. The rest I don't really care about. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a stressful morning I think, so we'll see how it turns out. The van quickly filled up with flowers and all the stuff I needed for my display, and I headed off to get set up at the market. The first thing I noticed when I got there was the market didn't take up as much space as it used to, but I'd heard a couple of good things from other traders, so I was trying to feel optimistic. To make my stall stand out even more, I brought some eucalyptus poles that I'd concreted into a zinc bucket. I put chicken wire around them and used the spare limonium, feverfew and snapdragons to create a display. It definitely helped to draw people in throughout the day. I was really happy with how it looked, and I had time for a quick look around and a chat with another local flower farmer who was trading at the market too. Hi! Yeah. So far the rain had stayed away, and by the time the market started the sun was even trying to shine. I had a visit from my parents and saw lots of familiar faces, and I was having a great start to the market. So we're 40 minutes into the market now and I've almost broken even, and it's not raining yet and the sun is trying to peek through, so we're doing well so far. I'm really pleased with how it's going, and I've seen lots of old faces and said hello to lots of friends, so I'm really enjoying being at the market today. So it's about 1 o'clock now and I have sold a lot of flowers, but I have got a lot of flowers left, and I've just reduced the last bunches because it has been chucking it down for the last half an hour or so, and some of the wrapping doesn't look great, it's got a little bit wet. and there's not a lot of people hanging around anymore. They've all kind of disappeared because of the rain. So I've reduced the £20 bouquets down to 15 and the Feverfew bouquets down to 10. So we'll see if I manage to sell any more by the end of today. By the end of the day, I was shattered and had 17 bouquets and 3 Feverfew bunches left. I didn't film anything else because I was so tired, but let's have a look at a breakdown of how the market went. So let's have a look at what it cost me to be at the market first of all. It cost me £282.60 to order the stocks, eryngium and sunflowers, and that came to 260 stems, so I was paying about £1.08 a stem there. And then I bought 5 buckets from Hattie, and that was 250 stems at an average price of 80p a stem. And that was the total of all of the flowers that I bought for the market, and then obviously there was the flowers that I picked from the farm on top of that. And then sales went like this. I made 68 £20 bouquets and I sold 51 of them. And I made 21 £12.50 Feverfew bouquets and sold 18 of those. And altogether, on my card payments, I took £952.50 minus the transaction fee, which gave me a total of £936.37, and I took £250 cash. So all in all, it cost me £482.60 in flowers to take to the market, and my total sales was £1,186.37, meaning that I took home a profit of £703.77. If I'd have sold all of the flowers, then I would have taken home £1,622.50 and made a profit of £1,139.90. Obviously, I haven't included my time in these figures or the cost of production of the plants that I cut that were my own from the farm, but you could easily add that in if you wanted to. I calculated a couple of years ago that it costs me about 30p to produce a plant from seed and plant it into the ground and care for it until it's ready to cut. And some plants produce sort of 5 to 20 stems, so you can use that maths to figure out what profit you might be able to make on the flowers that you've picked and sold at a market. So all in all, there probably isn't that much profit margin in it when you think about how much time it takes. I spent about 3 days preparing for the market, and initially I did have to pay out for the gazebo, the tables and some of the other decoration things that I put on the market. But I've got other markets coming up this summer. I've got one every month until October, so I'm hoping those are going to go well. And obviously the weather did majorly affect this market. The rain was from about, I think, 12 o'clock till 2 o'clock, and it just went really quiet from that point on. So I think if the forecast had been better and the rain hadn't come, the market would have stayed busy for that last couple of hours, and I probably would have sold the rest. So will I take that many flowers again to the next market? I'm not sure. I'm going to think about it, but I think if the forecast is looking good, I'll probably take a similar amount. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you think it was worth it taking that many flowers to the market and the work it takes to produce all of those flowers and take them on the day? I think it does, because it gives me my the ability to do my dream job. So I think that the profit is worth it. Hopefully next time when I take more flowers, I will sell them all as well. So thank you again for watching this video, and I'll see you again on the next one.